While searching for her escaped cat on a wintry night, old woman stumbles upon an unbelievable sight. Growing old is inevitable. For some of us, it may seem like a destination or an uncharted horizon, but that destination will arrive sooner or later. Lucky are those who get to grow old with their companion. But there are also people like Fran Swayze, who lives with her cat Bandit in an old age home. Fran rescued him from a shelter, and since then the duo's been inseparable. Until one night when Fran noticed Bandit behaving oddly. He sat by the front door and kept meowing at something on the other side. At first, Fran didn't open the door, assuming Bandit wanted to go out for a walk, and it was already past 9 p.m. But when Bandit didn't quiet down, Fran gave in. As soon as she opened the door, Bandit ran outside instantly and disappeared into the night. Fran rushed behind, desperately looking for her cat. Little did she know, on that icy winter night, as she called out for Bandit, she'll come face to face with an unbelievable sight. The sun rays poured inside through the cracks in the blinds. Waking up in the morning is no longer a challenge for Fran. She wakes up without the need to rub the sleep away from her eyes. Her dreams are not just forgotten, but completely erased from her mind. Looking forward to starting her day, Fran dragged her feet off the bed into her slippers, resting by her bed. After Fran lost her husband, she went through phases of grief. At first, it was denial, then acceptance, which took a lot out of her. She couldn't sleep in her bed for a really long time. Then came recovery, where she didn't want to get out of bed. And now she's moved on. She's learned to live her life despite the loss. That's what her husband would have wanted for her, after all. Buena Vista Seniors Community. Fran didn't notice when she started calling this place home. Initial years were difficult, but gradually she learned to be on her own. She even made friends with a few people here and began to enjoy her time. Things got easier when Bandit came into her life. Bandit's her cat that she rescued last year. Around the summer of last year, Fran had been thinking about getting a pet. She knew her mind will be busy and having a companion will be healing for her. Even though she's made her peace with being alone after losing her husband, it's not always easy to be on her own. It took her years to get used to sleeping in an empty bed. She assumed getting a pet would be good for her. She was a firm believer in adopting animals instead of buying them from stores. Providing a home for an animal in need is the best thing anyone can do for them. They just need to be loved and cared for. So Fran decided to visit a local shelter and take a look around. She didn't have anything in her mind beforehand. She knew once she sees it, she'll know it's hers. As decided, Fran walked inside the shelter with zero expectations. She began to look around cages, which kept different kinds of dogs and cats. Some of the cages also had rabbits. Fran knew she's too old for a dog. They have crazy energy and need a lot of care. One which she won't be able to provide is an elderly lady who lives in an old age home. Fran assumed getting a cat would be easier. Plus, she was more of a cat person anyway. So she began to look through the cat cages. There were a variety of cats, some fluffy, some tiny, some sleepy, some aggressive. But Fran had not felt the connection she assumed she would feel when she spots her right animal. Right as she was about to turn her back, her eyes spotted a cage in the corner of the room. Fran saw a skinny tabby cat curled up in her cage. Unlike other cats, she didn't crave for attention. She didn't make a sound as Fran approached her cage. On inquiring about the cat, Fran came to know that he had been there at the shelter for over a year, but nobody would adopt him. Fran knew there's no reason to not adopt him. He's just a little coy, that's all. Fran decided to take the cat home. She felt that connection with him, even though she just saw him. The people at the shelter were happy to assist, as finally, after living in a cage for more than a year, the cat gets to go home. That evening, once the shelter was done with his vaccination, they dropped off the cat at Fran's room. Fran decided to welcome her new cat home and named him Bandit. Since Bandit had been on his own for almost a year, it took him a while to get used to his new home. He didn't know what sleeping in a warm bed feels like, and Fran would often find him sleeping in a corner on the floor. Fran allowed Bandit time to get used to everything. Her home, her smell, her love, her touch. During the initial days, he wouldn't come out from underneath the table. She got him cat food, which he refused to touch. The only thing he enjoyed was some warm milk. Fran assumed Bandit had either suffered some kind of trauma, or having lived alone, he didn't know how to share his space. Fran knew that for Bandit, it's important to take baby steps to make him comfortable at her home. So, when he finally decided to step out from the table, Fran let him walk around and get familiar at his own pace. And before she knew it, Bandit was beginning to come around. During daytime, Bandit lived his life like a feline ninja, waging wars against birds and rats. But once the evening sets in, he cuddles with Fran, demanding her to pet him. He eats the finest cat food and sleeps in a warm bed every night. He was finally living the life he deserved. In other words, a loving home not locked away in a cage. Bandit also had made friends with the neighbors, which Fran was really happy about. Her neighbor Mary had a Dachshund of her own named Sugar. But despite the expected cat and dog rivalry, Bandit and Sugar never fought with each other. Bandit made sure to visit them once during his very busy day of chasing rats and birds. It was a chilly winter evening on a Saturday. Fran was finishing up with dinner and Bandit was busy licking his bowl clean. Since the weather got colder, Fran liked to wrap up with her chores early so that she could head to bed and read in the warmth. Bandit, on the other hand, was an outdoor-loving cat, despite the cold weather. So every evening after dinner, he would head out for his walk and come home after tiring himself out. Once home, he would cuddle with Fran and fall asleep while she finishes her book and eventually falls asleep herself. It was almost 9 p.m. now, but Bandit was not ready